players now reacting to the news, including PGA Tour winner Brendan Todd.
Yeah, I just happened to be on the shuttle ride back from the range and opened my email and saw the letter from the commissioner. Safe to say we're all pretty surprised out here.
What sort of details or information have you received from the tour about this new move?
Yeah, so, the memo today just said that there's going to be a combination of the LIV, PGA, and DP World Tours, that the PGA Tour will still have a majority stake on the policy board, but that Alrumayen will be on the board. And that somehow there's some merging of the tours. They're going to try and keep some team component in professional golf, but try to get some of the disruption and maybe some of the bitterness out of the professional game, which is probably a positive. But I think for all of us out here on the PGA Tour, we're really anxious to hear the details to see how it affects each and every player in the tour going forward.
With the little bit of information that you do have, what are your thoughts on this decision? Is this something that you think is going to be favorable with the players?
Well, I think the PGA Tour and the players have worked so hard in the last year to get the tour right, to create a good system going forward with the designated events, keep the sponsors engaged and happy. And so, I think I need more details to figure out if it's going to be positive or negative. Anytime you're taking investment from the Saudi Public Investment Fund, that's probably a difficult decision to make, and it's one that Jay and the team definitely struggled with, I think, for a long time, and ultimately they came to the decision that they're going to take the investment and try to get some of the disruption out of the game, and hopefully it's positive going forward. But I think for us out here on the PGA Tour that we're loyal and stuck with it, I think we're probably anxious and a little bit frustrated to hear that potentially some of the LIV players could come back to our tour, just because, it doesn't quite seem fair to a lot of us, I'm sure.
The players you have gotten a chance to speak to, I saw a lot of players out here in the last few minutes looking at their cell phones. What has their reaction been to the news?
Yeah, I think just complete surprise. We had heard really no rumblings of this. I have friends who are on the PAC and on the policy board. Nobody mentioned one word about it. So it must have been a very small network of executives that were meeting with PIF and the DP World Tour to figure out, what they could do to team up. And, they made their decision. And like I said, we'll just figure out, what it is going forward. And, my job is just to go out there and play as well as I can every day.
Thanks for taking the time and sharing your thoughts. We appreciate it.
Yeah, you got it.
Brendan on site at the RBC Canadian Open. Phil Mickelson, his reaction, awesome day today, smiley face. Phil has been the front man, more or less, for the LIV Golf Tour to get that off the ground. And now we reach a day like today, Damon.
Yeah, he was the front man, and then he disappeared for months. He reemerged looking gaunt, wearing sunglasses and dark clothes. November of 2021, he had a conversation with Alan Shipnuck, the author and former Sports Illustrated senior writer, on the record or off the record, depending on who you ask. And he said that he knew what he was doing, dealing with the Saudis, called them a pejorative term, cursed, and said, but this was a one-time opportunity, once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to reshape how the PGA Tour conducts business, saying, I know that they execute people for being gay. He knew their human rights record, but saw this as an opportunity for leverage. What did Jay Monahan, the commissioner, say in response to those comments? We are about legacy, not leverage. How we got from there to this morning, I'll never know. I hope we find out with some good dogged reporting and hopefully some clarity in this situation. But for Phil Mickelson is probably wanting to do a victory lap today. He was persona non grata in this game. He had disappointed legions of fans who saw him as an everyman. And we're going to bring back Rich Lerner, who joins us once again in Los Angeles. This turnabout in this news today for Phil Mickelson, who was out of this game. Where does he go from here? This vindication of someone who was beloved and who was then reviled and probably feels reborn today.
Will Phil be a Ryder Cup captain someday? I doubt it. I think he's burned too many bridges. I do think he comes out of this in some ways as a winner. He's likely to be as insufferable as he's ever been. He's been all over Twitter, picking fights, jabbing at people, including Rory McIlroy the last few weeks. but to give him some credit, Mickelson viewed himself as a disruptor, as a visionary. And he can, I think, on some grounds, rightly claim that the changes made by the PGA Tour with these designated events the last year were of, to some extent, his making. Mickelson long believed that the stars were underpaid, that they were carrying the water for the rank and file, that they sold the tickets, drove the ratings. And in some respects, he was right, because it's tilted heavily in favor of Rory McIlroy and Jon Rahm, the superstars, and Jordan Spieth of the game. But I still think Mickelson's legacy's been somewhat damaged. This is my view here. I don't speak for everybody. I know there are lots of fans that love him, and I've loved watching Phil. I've loved covering Phil through the years. I think he's unquestionably one of the 10 to 15 greatest players of all time and one of the most exciting players of all time. Personally, I wish he would have done it differently. I still maintain that had he dropped his clubs after he won at Kiowa at the age of 50 and walked off, he would have enjoyed what I call the Arnold Palmer ambassadorship for the rest of his days. I don't know what the numbers are, tens of millions of dollars per year with his own media content company a la Peyton Manning or Stephen Curry. Would have had a seat likely in one of the network booths, would have done all sorts of endorsements. He chose a different path, and he was well paid for it. And I think he'll be able to stand up next week whenever we see him next with a big smile and his shoulders pinned back and say, in some manner of speaking, I was right.
Rich, 10 years from now, how do you think Phil will be looked at from a legacy standpoint?
Things soften over time. The record is the record. It's unassailable in terms of what he did on the golf course. Again, regardless of how you feel about this particular issue, I think most would agree he is one of the most entertaining and beloved golfers of all time. Yeah, I mean, he'll probably be in a better position than he is now. And I don't know to what extent he'll be allowed back into the sort of commercial endorsement arena with the sides having, it appears, to have patched up their differences. Stranger things have happened, and maybe with the backing of the Saudi Public Investment Fund and their new relationship with the PGA Tour, maybe there's a way for Phil to restore some of the luster to his image. Hard to say. He won't have that many more playing opportunities, at least at the highest level, although he proved us wrong at Augusta National. But I think about things like the Ryder Cup. Will he be a captain again? I could be wrong, but I find that hard to imagine. Could Phil find his way to a television booth? He loves to talk. He loves to poke. He probably would be phenomenal at it. Again, stranger things have happened. And if you're a network and you're looking to juice some ratings and create some buzz, that would be a buzz generator for sure.